Race first, 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 race first. I'm screaming race first, brothers form a coalition. Protectors and providers, earn your belt in position. And tell my sisters out there, you're not my competition. Our enemy, one is divided as opposition. I'm taking care of home first. The melanin the creator blessed us with has value in its own worth. The most beautiful resources are black women. So when you disrespect them, yes, I get offended. We need to give our children knowledge, wisdom, understanding. And reparations for slavery, we are demanding. Look to the future, begin a positive outcome. Forget being niggas, we need to raise more Malcolms. Encourage our women that the beauty is natural. The bond between the brother and sister is compatible. I young race first, cause I love being black with the original man, and that's an actual fact. Race first, 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 race first. In the spirit of Marcus Garvey, one God, one aim, and one destiny. We're trying to live heavily. Power to the people that's meant for us especially. Support black businesses, utilize your specialty. I love my brothers and sisters, there's no confusion. You want equality on the ship is revolution. Look at our flag, let me explain what it means. In the essence of God, which is the supreme being. The red is for the blood of which our ancestors shed, for us to be free and also moving ahead. The black is for the skin we possess as melanin. As God's chosen people, just look at the evidence. The green is for the land in which our people reside, all over the planet, which includes that Kelbulan. I embrace first, and there is no looking back, because I love my people, and that's an actual fact. Race first, 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 race first. One God, one aim, one destiny, one love. 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 Race first, 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 race first.
This is Brother A to the J. Want to welcome y'all to Race First Radio with the Garveyites. This is solution-based black media, and I'm gonna turn it over to my sister Tanaya.
Greetings, peace, love, and black power, my people. Today I want to introduce you to some great brothers. I'm gonna start with myself. My name is Sister Tanaya. I'm your gracious host for this evening. The lead host, I should say. And we have three good brothers here. I'm sorry. Four brothers here that I would like to introduce you all to. We have other co-hosts, Brother Anthony and Brother Abdullah, Brother Alton, A to the J, and our guest speaker, which we call our subject matter expert, Brother Nubian Malik is with us today. And the topic that we're going to be discussing today is one that's worthy of our time, our energy, and our focus, given the light that it is prom season, right? It's graduation season, it's summer. We come into the midpoint of the year, and this is a time for the youth to pop out, as they say, right? They're popping out. And speaking of popping out, we all know that during prom and graduation, a lot of good and not so good decisions are made. And we saw some images circulating in the media of some young brothers and sisters who did pop out, so to speak, that the dress up, the car when it comes to prom, everything is important on that day to young people. And so some of us in the black community, we want to make memorable, lasting images. And this one sister in Florida and a young brother in Florida, they made an impression and it went viral. We was talking about a young sister who took pictures with arms, right? And her prom dress, with her date. I'm pretty sure most people have seen that circulate in the last 2 weeks. Supposedly, after the images went viral of the sister with the dress and her date and with arms, supposedly there was some harsh consequences rendered upon her. And we were trying to confirm whether or not it was true, if the young lady did lose her 4-year scholarship to Tennessee State, Tennessee State University, and also if she had been expelled from the school, the high school, prior to graduation. So that being said, thought it would be good to reach out to Brother Nubian and really just discuss this as a whole African family. Is it that people not respecting Black gun ownership? Because we don't really know if these guns were owned. We don't really know if they were actually loaded. We don't really know. A lot of things we don't know, but there was a lot of assumptions passed about these photos. Brother Nubian, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I do need to make one more addition to this brother, which is that, he's a certified Black weapons trainer. He teaches concealing carry classes through Advain Advantage here in the Chicagoland area. And we just thought that this brother could do some educating us on, in general, this topic. So welcome, Brother Nubian.
Ashe, much appreciation and real glad to be here, sister.
Ashe, thank you. We're glad you could be here. So my first question is, with the images that you saw, brother, do you think that whether or not the story is true or not about the consequences that the sister suffered, do you think that this was responsible Black gun ownership?
So, a much appreciation for that question. And let me say this, that word expert is going to get me in trouble, but we're going to do what we do. There's a couple of different perspectives that we have to think about when we deal with these kinds of images. The first and foremost one that we have to address is the problem Black people holding guns? Is that the problem? Yes or no? And we can't answer that, you know what I'm saying? We can only read the media and how it is that they presented it. So if we address that first aspect, is the problem of Black people holding guns the problem, then that's unacceptable, because, we have a right to pose, model, and flex or pop out, as you said, with firearms in the same way that anybody else does. Unfortunately, the media do take exception when Black people use arms for anything, demonstration, lessons, protection, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Vast majority of these anti-gun communities and anti-gun states and anti-gun cities, anti-gun populations are usually where you have an overwhelming amount of Black people there. You see more of your restrictive gun policies in those areas, again, Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, and other places of that nature, where you have a real strong Black population. And so if that's the question, first and foremost, that's a null and void question, and we not even need to entertain that. If for the sake of discussion, we can discuss it, but for the sake of entertainment, we as Black people should not even entertain the question, is it acceptable for Black people to engage with firearms, rather again it's at prom or whatever, right? That's the first thing, and that's the most important thing. Now everything else, of course, will come off of that, if you will. The image that was shared with me under the caption, says something to the extent, well, you know what, let's pause there and just throw that around a little bit to make sure that we give that a healthy understanding as it relates to them practicing their right to Second Amendment. You know what I'm saying? The Second Amendment. And so if there's any questions around that, then we can get into some of the what ifs and whatnot. Some of that background that we was not able to actually find out or confirm, you know? And so if there's anything around the question of the Second Amendment, for the sake of this discussion, we can have it. But again, my point is that we need not even entertain that, but for the sake of this discussion, we can definitely interrogate it a little bit.
Ashe, yes indeed. I think that, you know, asking if it was responsible black gun ownership, and I'm gonna turn it over to the brothers to kind of jump in or chime into this as well, was that there was some parents, concerned parents in the comments, and there was a few elders who had seen it, and the number one question they said was, you know, are these individuals over 18, right? And so that was a concern about, okay, are they 17 holding guns, are they 18 holding guns, right? So I don't know what the legality is with ages in Florida. So that's kind of why we was leaning on you, brother, to, you know, help us with that, because we don't know how old these young people are.
Right. And if the other brothers are going to jump in, you know, just let me know. But again, see, this becomes another. So what mass media have conditioned black people to do is to ask these, trying to be polite, because it was said that elders have asked these questions, but these asinine questions about how old they are. So there's two things that we know for sure, that in most states, while you cannot purchase a firearm or own a firearm, in most states there's no age regulation to interacting with a firearm. That is, if your father, your uncle, your mother, your sister, your auntie want to take you to the gun range or have you out on the land shooting, there are no age restrictions to that, right? That's the first thing. But mass media will create this concept, are they old enough to do this, right? And so again, that you follow what I'm saying? It's kind of like that's, yeah. And so the origin of where that question comes from is problematic in itself.
Yes.
The second thing is that if this young couple, this young sister and this young brother is graduating from high school, going to prom, I guess they graduate. Well, it's said that her whole Tennessee State University piece was canceled and that she wasn't allowed to engage her graduation at her school, which supposedly her sister came online and said that it was her auntie creating false narratives and things of that nature, trying to get likes on her page or whatever. We're gonna talk about that just a little bit. But with that, so we know that these people was at least graduation age.
Yeah.
That's not to say that they made doubles or triples or that they graduated at 11 years old and all of this kind of stuff, right? So let's just assume in a healthy kind of way that they 16 to 17 years old, right?
Yeah.
And so at 16 to 17 years old, you should have had a good understanding of firearms in the same way that we would expect for you to be leaving high school with a good understanding of wrestling or boxing or any other martial art. You know what I'm saying? And that's not an inappropriate age to be engaged in firearms. Not at all.
Thank you.
And again, and just real quick, and again, we can deal with all of the other stuff later, but let's just deal with that for what it is. The age should not even been a question, but again, mass media have created this this hysteria about how old somebody should be interacting with firearms, and et cetera, et cetera. And we need to really have our children starting to train with firearms as young as 7. And if they're mentally capable prior to 7, we should, you know what I'm saying, from a mature level, we should even be engaging them and introducing them to them even before that. In fact, because you can introduce children to firearms in different ways outside of just handling them or shooting them, you know what I'm saying? But from the position of handling and shooting them, we should at a minimum start that at 7 years old. So that questions concerning that have no place in the discussion in real life.
Indeed.
And when we think of age, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Like he was underage and he got away. I wouldn't say got away, but he was exonerated. If that's the right term, the legal term. He was exonerated from murder charges when he murdered some people, being underage and carrying a firearm. So for them to say anything for our children, just taking a picture about that negates that. Just that whole case negates the age difference.
Right, and we can probably do a different conversation around Rittenhouse. But I would say this, going against the grain, but in all truth, if you've been attacked by a mob of people and one of them is swinging a skateboard at you, which can cause grave bodily harm or death or disfigurement, you have every right to engage them with lethal force, with deadly force. But we can talk about that later. Now, I think one of the things, and I don't want to go too far off track, one of the things that comes up with this question of firearms, rights, justice, and everything else, we try to ask the question, if there was a black person, would they been able to get away with it? You know what I'm saying? And that clouds and pollutes the water, because now you want to talk about the way a country or a system treat a people versus what's actually legally right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, we can chop that up at a later time if that's acceptable. And again, I don't want to go too far away from it. But there was a young cat who mother could not get to the AR-15. I can't. These are white people, and two dudes broke into the house or something. I wish I'd have thought about it. I'd have had the exact information. And he ended up shooting both of them. One of them was a through and through, you know what I'm saying? He hit the first one and went through and got to the second one. And I want to say he fired 2 or 3 shots, but he stopped both of them and may have killed one of them, maybe both of them. But my point being is that this young man would not have been able to save his mother had not his parents, his mother, his father, whoever was in his life, taught him to do that. You know what I'm saying? If he had to pick that gun up for the first time based on what he had seen on TV, he'd have probably been clueless. You see what I'm saying? And so again, this thing about age, it has no place in the conversation. Okay. Is my point.
It definitely doesn't, because when we juxtapose it to all of the white images that circulate out there, we got 5-year-olds with pistols and all kind of stuff. So I think the question is, the issue is, it's just a black young people with guns. That gotta be it. I'm a little shocked though, because they in the South, and that right there is kind of intriguing to me, because it's the South, you know. But as we can see, the black people around the world have something to say about it, and it's not necessarily good. So I'm gonna turn it over to other brothers. I'm gonna save my questions for a little later.
Hey, brother Abdullah is gonna say something.
In the context of young black youth and black people in general, I think every black person in the United States and abroad should have access to proper and efficient weapons training. I see no problem with young people learning how to responsibly and effectively learn about weapons training, holding access to weapons. As long as there is a mature, responsible adult that is properly teaching them the true concepts of weapons, then to me it's no problem. I think as black people, we spend too much emphasis on worrying about what the mainstream, and I said it correctly, the mainstream's perception of us holding and maintaining weapons. My only thing with the image of the brother and sister holding the weapons is the imagery of what we present when we show these weapons online, especially on social media. Me personally, as a combat military veteran, I have purposely trained my 11-year-old son how to hold a weapon, carry a weapon, and I've been teaching him that since he was 7 years old. I've been in countries where I have literally seen young children as young as 5, 6 years old not only have access to AK-47s and all of these other automatic weapons, but they have learned bomb-making materials to subdue or kill their enemy. So, in my opinion, I truly believe that black people should have access to learning about the importance of weapons safety as much as possible, while at the same time having proper supervision by a black male or black woman adult that's going to teach them the importance of weapons training. And I think we need to stop worrying so much about the imagery of what everyone else is going to think about us in regards to holding weapons. And I agree with you, Brother Nubian. The age factor to me is a non-factor. We from Chicago. We know kids as young as 9, 10 years old can get their hands on guns. So what is the issue when it comes to weapons? My only thing is, how are these children being taught to utilize these weapons properly? And if if they're not being taught the correct way of how to use a weapon, hold a weapon, or even store weapons, then I think the message of them getting weapons shouldn't even be brought up.
That's right. Yep.
So, thank you for your comment, Brother Abdullah. And being a veteran, let me ask you two brothers this. Brother Abdullah and Brother Nubian, there was a nice amount of comments about the way this sister was holding, right, the weapons, and in the young brother as well. So, given the fact that you all have experience with weapons, I want to ask, so I want to ask this question too. It's twofold. One, there was a group of individuals saying, man, this young sister and this young brother, they got good gun discipline. And so I said, how do you know that? So, I want to ask you all, can you debunk that? Is that true? Like, what do people really mean when they say they got gun discipline?
There you go. So when we talk about firearm discipline, it's two primary things that you're dealing with, and these are from safeties, right? Which they actually do not show good gun discipline in their images. In the image that I've seen anyway, one of them is trigger discipline, that is where you place your finger on the trigger or not, right? And we understand that the only time that your finger should be on the trigger is when you are aimed in at the target and have made a conscious decision to shoot, right? Or at least to be prepared to shoot. And then the other one is being muzzle discipline. That is the business end of that gun, the end of that barrel where that bullet comes out at, making sure that it don't flag anything that you're not trying to kill, destroy, or pay for, right? So in that, while the young lady showed excellent finger discipline in keeping her finger high and then register, what we call it, hide and register, the brother, and I would have to look back at the picture, but one thing for sure, he aimed the firearm at whoever was taking the picture, right? unless it was on a back path, but it looked like they were standing out in the middle of a community. And so, that's not a good, safe direction as it relates to the way where he had this gun aimed at. Being in a community of that nature, I probably would have personally liked to see hers pointed down versus up, right? But if you're in a boat, you want it up. If you're in a helicopter, you want it down. So, that whole kind of thing. So that, in that way, I would say that the young man did not display, firearm discipline in that sense. And again, is that whole, what's the word I want to use? For lack of a better term, rap video syndrome. I'm about this life and I'm ready to blast this thing, let this thing go, right? Because you can take pictures with firearms and really show that, this is not. And again, going back to what Brother Abdul was saying earlier, a big part of that is like media, the narrative that the media has spun. You know what I'm saying? And so the first thing that we see is the brother's hair, and those of us that don't understand the hair, can't appreciate the hair, oh, look at this fool. Then he got the gun in his hand, and so it just goes down the rabbit hole from there. Mm-hmm. But again, the sister, I thought, displayed whoever, taught her or whoever instructed her doing that image did correct. The brother, I think, faulted only by aiming the gun towards something or someone, in that type of community. Yeah. And again, we could argue that type of stuff. We could argue and discuss, was the guns empty? Because we do know that the shotgun that the sister was carrying had what appeared to be live shells on the side saddle or on the bandolier or whatever it was. Can't really remember the image right now. Yeah. But I think when it was laying down at her feet, it was obvious that you could see shells and whatnot. And so, from the gun side of the camp as a firearms instructor, it would raise like some red flags. But again, I don't think that was the main the main concern. I think the main concern, I'm gonna let Abdul chime in. I think the main concern was these black people with these guns, and this is what, again, as Abdul was saying, that the media has spent it being as unacceptable. And so all of those other little things, I don't think was even really like the big main concern. But here you go.
That's true.
Now I'm looking at the imagery behind this picture, and I agree with Brother Nubian. The young brother, when he's pointing the weapon straight forward, you can't tell whether or not he has proper hand posture on the trigger. You can't tell, but if we were on the range, that would be a no-no, the way he has that weapon pointed straight up. And as a person who's dealt with weapons for years, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me too, Brother Nubian, you're supposed to have that muzzle pointing down. That way you don't hurt or harm anybody. And I agree also with how the sister has her weapon pointed. I would never have especially a handgun, I would never have it pointed upward. Now, granted, her finger isn't on the trigger, isn't inside the trigger mechanism, which is a good thing, but pointed up, that could be a possible accident. I'll give you another incident. When we went to Milwaukee, what was that, 2020? For Brother Jacob Blake, Wisconsin, that's a legal carrying state. There was a sister with a 223 who had her finger inside of the trigger mechanism, and I walked up to her and said, "Sister, please take your weapon outside. Please take your trigger finger outside of the trigger mechanism, because if you make a mistake, you could possibly hurt or possibly kill somebody, as we saw what NFAC did in Louisville a couple of years ago." So once again, although the imagery to me, I could care less about it, but the thing is, what are we really truly educating especially our youth, on how to practice proper and efficient weapons training? And I think we need to stay fixated more so on educating our children properly with using, because I've been in Inglewood and Roseland, and I've had guys who came up to me with AK-47s, and the first thing I would notice was the weapon was either dirty or it was loaded and they couldn't disassemble it. And so I would remove everyone away from that weapon, go to that weapon myself, make sure I'm in a proper safe place to ensure that I can disassemble the weapon without the round going off and hurting people. And then once I was able to disassemble the weapon, then I began to teach the young guys around me, okay, this is what happened, this is what you do, this is what you need to do moving forward. And if we're teaching people the importance of using weapons the right way, then I think that the conversation will begin to change. The conversation shouldn't be about whether or not they can have weapons. I mean, if they legally can buy it, fine. Just like you said, Brother Nubian, earlier, if they can legally, if they're able to get access to training at such a young age, I don't see no problem with it. And who cares that the media thinks that it's a problem when black people have weapons? We've been using weapons our whole historical existence. Why should we kill that our enemy worry about us having weapons now? And I rest my case with that.
Ashe. Appreciate that, brothers. Those two perspectives. We know what they're really trying to say, right? And I want Brother Anthony to chime in as well at some point. Is that because violence, right? And we know what they really getting at, right? When they say, when they ask all of these intrusive and silly questions about age and all of these different things, it's race, it's very racial, and it's definitely, it's just an opportunity for them to say, here we go again, black kids and black people are violent. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's just what it really boils down to. When you chew the meat and spit out the bones, it's about them trying to say that we are of a violent people, right? And undisciplined people, right? Again, like they've always done since the beginning of time. So, what I would like to know is, Brother Abdullah brought up something important. Is about geography and location. And is Florida an open carry state? Do we know that?
I don't believe so. Don't quote me on that. And I should actually know that, but I don't believe Florida is an open carry
state.
Brother
Nubian, Florida is an open carry state. The majority of states in the South are open carry states. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama. I think Mississippi isn't. No, it is. And I think Texas is. So the majority of states in the South are actually open carrying states because of those red states. The red states typically advocate for the usage of the Second Amendment very staunchly.
Okay.
And it's interesting because when you go online, brother, it's so weird. They make, I don't know if this was changed recently, because we don't control the information, no way, right? Right. So when we go and look into these things, they can always kind of curate it, they can edit it. But when I went online to find that information out, it said that Florida is not an open carry state except for in a limited exception when fishing and camping and lawful hunting or target practice at an indoor range.
Okay.
And it's saying that concealed carry is legal for residents with a Florida CWL, for non-residents a CCW permit for the state of Florida. So now maybe it was an open carry, because I remember it being that in the past, Brother Abdullah. And when did it change? I don't know, right? But they're saying for limited purposes, fishing, camping, hunting, and target practice in indoor range. So do we think that with that information, that some of the reason why they was out in the open with these guns could have kind of spurred the conversation of the way it has?
So if I may?
Yes, sir.
Again, I was following Abdullah's lead in saying that it was open carry. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I actually give the Florida certificate when I teach my concealed carry class, and it just, for me, it just does not resonate as being an open carry state. And again, I should know that, but it seems that it's not. But so two things. One, open carry or not, when you start talking. So open carry in itself is reckless, if you ask me, in that what it does more than anything, it gives away your element of surprise, right? There's numerous videos out there where you can see people who doing open carry get their guns snatched off of them. Now, if that's the tool that you use to stop people from hurting you, now that they done took it from you, what do you have at your disposal, right? There's one guy in line at a McDonald's, and another guy comes up behind him, looked like he honestly was there to order some food. But then he realized this guy got this nice big old pretty pistol on his hip, right? And he went from ordering a cheeseburger to wanting this pistol. And he politely took the pistol off the man's hip. By the time the man realized what was happening, he turned around and acted like he wanted to go after the guy that had headed towards the door. The dude turns around and aimed the gun at him. That's a done deal. He realized nobody lost that gun, right? So I personally have no appreciation for open carry. I think that's really just one of those Second Amendment things that people like to do, you know, but to each his reach. Again, for me, it just takes the element of surprise away. The other thing is that what it does not make sense to me, particularly in the Black community, is and I understand the Second Amendment statement, I really do, but I come from an era where the firearms that your parents had in your house, nobody was supposed to know about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it was like quiet as kept, silence and secrecy type thing. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, and again, I understand the Second Amendment thing. I don't know if this sister was doing Second Amendment work prior to this. You know, again, that becomes one of those things, right? Was she doing Second Amendment work while she was in high school? Or is this just a photo out with some guns? But for me, you know, and again, to each his reach, as George Clinton said, if I don't copy, they mine to have. I wouldn't hold it against them for taking their images with their firearm, but really, ain't nobody else supposed to know that you got no gun. In the same way with concealed carry. It's concealed carry, not revealed carry, as one of my partners say. And so, you know, by the time you realize I got a gun on me, it's gonna be way too late for you. You know, for whatever it is that you're doing, that you have to arrive to the understanding that this dude got a gun, right? But that's just how I kind of see it. It's like if you're not really like making a Second Amendment statement, because again, going back to the captain up under the picture that I saw, and it alluded to just some stupid stuff. It could have been somebody adding their own caption to the picture. You know, she ready for them that jumped on her earlier in the year or something. I don't know what prompted the picture. You know what I'm saying? I really don't, and I would refuse to speak to it. But again, in my world, ain't nobody supposed to know the equipment that I got. No way. But again, to each its reach.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say that was an ugly prom dress, though. I don't know if I would really
That brother did not go there.
But I'm gonna let y'all continue.
Hey, look. Since we cracking, I ain't going in on the prom dress, but it's the only image, and this is not to hold anything against the young brother and the young sister, but I've never seen where a man has stood on his lady's dress before. Now you talk about etiquette, right? That was one of the things that had kind of stood out to me. In fact, it was like the responsibility of the man to make sure that nobody else step on his lady's dress, But we're in a different time, and I guess we just have to respect this generation and how they do things, whether we agree with it or not,
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and that's the kind of like, what was interesting to me is, first of all, when I saw it, now that I can give my take on it, when I saw it, I thought this shit was pretty dope, right? I really liked the whole thing, right? I was like, okay. Okay, sis got her weaponry, okay. I was not, thinking anything negative until I saw like what black people were saying, and the scholarship thing came up. So, but other than that, hell, I thought it was a dope ass picture. And it was go down in history for her, right? But all these other questions started coming up, so I think we could switch over now a little bit to, consequences, because I do want the conversation to be meaningful, and whether or not, because she was black holding guns, whether or not this was just cause, right? So I wanted to ask about institutions. Question around institutions. Now, I went back and forward with friends and family the last 2 weeks about whether or not institutions could legally take something that was given and you earned away from you, right? And a scholarship was earned by the sister. Reportedly, she's a straight A student and earned this 4-year ride at Tennessee State. Now, my thing is, institutions can always, if they give it, they can take it. You know what I'm saying? Garvey even taught us that.
Without question.
You know what I'm saying? If they give it, they can take it. If they feed, they have the ability to starve, right?
That's right.
So, but it's different black people, and I'm gonna wrap my question up with this: is different black people who strongly share different sentiment than that. Me having a racial outlook on things, I'm saying hell yeah, they have the right to take that away. That's their money. But there's a growing concern that this sister may have a legal case, that she need to get her some legal counsel, because she shouldn't have lost that, given to the fact that she earned that, and that, they're not taking it away from white kids, so why would they take it away from her? So anybody can chime in on that one.
Are we sure that they're taken away from her? Because Brother Nubian stated that he read a post where this might not be true. So are we sure that the scholarship has been taken away from her?
Well, we're gonna speak on what is out there with what's mainly being discussed. That one article that Brother Nubian has sent, I think that article was from Emily Pop. And when I looked at it, I don't know if it's like a credible, article or website. So we don't know if that even is true. But the sister of the young lady was saying, hey, this is my auntie being thirsty for likes, and you know what I'm saying, she clout chasing. My sister ain't lose nothing, right? But we still can't verify whether or not these are people making these stories up. So in theory, we're gonna say in theory, right? Mm-hmm. If this was true, that she had lost the scholarship, in theory, is this harsh, right? Is really too harsh? Or if a white man give it, he can take it away?
Right.
I think we focus too much on what the enemy does and why the enemy can do certain things and we can't do it. I think we as African people have to remember, especially in this country, that we're still held in captivity because we don't own, control, or operate any industries and institutions in this country. And that we're still going to be subjected under their rule and supervision as long as they own and control every aspect of our livelihood existence in this land. Like you stated, Sister Tanaya, I don't know whether or not they took the scholarship away from the young lady or not. To me, I'm not focused on that part. My only focus is how they conducted themselves when posing in that photo on how they were properly using the weapons. Me personally, I would have never took a photo while I'm pointed directly at a camera. Because even when rappers, claim they use gun props for videos, there have been a couple of instances where those supposed gun props have went off and shot and injured somebody.
The case with Alec Baldwin, was that his name?
Alec Baldwin, when he even Dick Cheney back in the day, accidentally shot somebody.
Right.
But to me, my thing is this: when we speak about weapons, what we should be, focus more on, and I like what Brother Nubian does with his classes. You don't really see his classes conducted in the public, online at all. I think as African people, if we're gonna really truly focus on weapons training and stuff, we gotta stop trying to put it online and have it out in the media so where everybody gets to see it and gets to critique and dictate what we should and what we should not do. Because I don't know, maybe this is just that infantry military, combat veteran coming out of me, but I do know for a fact that when you fixate on conducting weapons training and using your weapons effectively, you never under any circumstances put it out there in the public for everybody to see. Because if I had a African Legion Army, I would be training my soldiers privately. And I think that's the most effective way into doing so, because you can get more results done and to training your people on the aspect of using weapons that way. And hopefully, later in this interview, we'll speak on some security aspects of what we should do as African people to protect not only ourselves, but to have responsible armed people in our communities.
Hey, bro. So let me make comment on your initial question, Sister Tanaya.
Yeah.
And that is, if what is being said is true, right? So we have to understand and remember that when a school gives you a scholarship is the word I'm looking for. When a school provides you with a scholarship, that's them saying that they want you at their school based on the work that you have done, right? That you would be a good candidate for their school. And at the same time, so, because they go after the biggest and the brightest, we can call it a brain drain if you want to in some instances, right? Where they draining the community of the biggest and brightest brains, oftentimes to get them to these other institutions and make sure that they're thinking the way that they need to be thinking, as Dr. Carter G. Woodson spelled it out for us, right? But we need to be clear that a school that has concluded that you originally was a good candidate for us, but now because we see you doing this, we don't want that mess here. You know what I'm saying? And for that reason, we're going to pull our scholarship from you. Now, I understand that that's a normal practice. You know what I'm saying? It's the same way that if O.J. Simpson kills his wife, right? Regardless of the endorsements that I had promised him, you're not good for our brand. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Yep, you're not good for our brand anymore, and we don't want you bringing that foolishness here. You know what I'm saying? And they will drop those scholarships because, there are people who have gotten scholarships, like football scholarships, to come and play with a team, and after they done did, maybe a DUI, or maybe they have jumped on their girlfriend or something of that nature, all bets is off the table, And so I'm thinking, I'm not no lawyer, I play a lawyer on the weekends, right? Right, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know it. And as somebody was saying about her getting an attorney, maybe there's room for that, but if I'm thinking the school have every right to withdraw that, Now let me just say this to that point, that, and I think this is what Brother Abdul was saying as well, is that we should not, in very honest terms, be expected to be seen, interacted with in the same way that white people inside of this country are seen and interacted with. We need not ever forget as Black people that this is a sovereign white nation, and on more than one occasion, their Supreme Court have upheld the ruling that this country is here to serve white people. Right? And so, and again, this becomes one of those things where Rittenhouse, why Black people are so disappointed, because they knew they wouldn't have received the same treatment. They just showed up at a protest of that nature with a rifle, even though, the Ain't Messing Around crew have done it, but it appears that when they do it, it's not so much of a protest that they are attending as much as it is a demonstration that they are performing at a separate time from a protest, right? But if a Black person shows up at a protest armed in the way that Rittenhouse was, they know that they'd have been shut down before it even got to where it got to with Rittenhouse, and that bothers Black people. And so we have to encourage people to understand, Black people to understand, that if you want privilege in the same way that these people have privilege in their country, you need to establish and develop your own country. You know what I'm saying? And no more, no less. And start whining about what they doing and how they doing it and whatnot. And again, it's a double-edged sword because of course you pay taxes and you want representation, taxation without representation, that whole kind of thing. So I understand that and I get that. But there was a point that I wanted to make concerning I went down the rabbit hole. I had something to say. It was like life-changing too. Right, it slipped my mind. What did I start with? I'm so sorry. Your original question.
Whether or not it was she had a case.
Right. And so I don't know if she has a case, but again, if that's not their brand, they have every right to determine it. That's the other thing. Something. Thank you very much. Then the question becomes, as Brother Abdul was talking about, the wisdom in this. Is it wise? This base, and again, I don't know the community they're from. Let's just say they're from an area like Chicago's West Side, South Side, some of these really hot areas, right? The question then becomes, or Baltimore, or someplace in Florida, Dade County, or some of these other places that really get hot sometimes down in Florida, right? And you know that it's not a popular thing to interact with firearms. Why would you intelligently, right, take prom pictures with firearms knowing that, and again, if this young lady was not doing Second Amendment work prior to that point, why would she even put herself in a situation with the understanding that she has so much to lose? Or maybe she realized that once it was locked in, it was all good. And that's really never the case. I think you said it best. Those that feed you can starve. The power, real power cannot be given. You know what I'm saying? Because anything given, as you said, sister, can be taken. And so the question becomes, was this really intelligent on their part, regardless? And again, if she wasn't doing Second Amendment work as a parent, I would have never encouraged her to do that. But again, this is everything after the fact that there is absolutely nothing wrong with black youth taking pictures with guns, practicing their Second Amendment. If all of that makes sense in the same sentence.
Yes, it does, brother. I think that me personally, I'm not, like you said, I'm not an attorney, but I'm consulting with some to figure out whether or not, and then the Florida law plays a role in that. So, you have to see, but I don't think, as a novice, I would say, I don't think that the sister got a case. If this is true, I do not see this as being winnable. Let me just say that. Because your mission statement, is your mission statement, right? And it usually your board of directors is your board of directors, and you set the terms on who you would and allow into your institution. Now, I will be surprised, right? If a HBCU, right, would react this way. You see what I'm saying? Will react this way to the sister. I would be surprised because this is the South, once again. But again, I don't think that the sister would have a strong enough case, and I don't think it would be winnable. Because again, the brand thing is the brand. Anybody else want to chime in? Do the sister got a case? If this was true, do she got a case?
Well, you want to say something, brother?
All right, this is how the law goes. Florida generally prohibits a person under the age of 18 from possessing a firearm. However, this prohibition does not apply to unloaded firearms in a minor's home. It also does not apply if the minor is engaged in a lawful hunting activity and is at least the age of 16 or under the age of 16, is supervised by an adult. Engaged in lawful marksman competition or practice or other lawful recreational shooting activity and is at least the age of 16 or under the age of 16 is supervised by an adult who is acting with the consent of the minor's parent or guardian, or transporting and unloading firearms directly to and from one of the aforementioned events. So she would not have if this is true, if the case is true, which I don't think we should even talk about this case because we don't know the facts, but if the case is true, then she wouldn't have a leg to stand on because the university does have the right to take away a scholarship. Like Brother Nubian said, scholarships have been taken away from athletes for minor offenses. There was an athlete that once that stole out of the cafeteria and had his scholarship taken from him. So they can, at their discretion, take away a scholarship if they find that you have done something that is outside of the grounds of what they would call moral conduct.
What I want to ask is, what can we learn from this case, or not? What can we learn from this situation that will help us progress racially?
Well, I think going back to what Abdul was saying, and everything that we've actually said here today, in that we can learn that there was, at a minimum, some poor weapons handling, and so there needs to be additional education as it relates to that, because a lot of people, one of the things that I do in my classes when I have time is that, like, people that arrive early, I'll find out who have never taken a class, who have never handled a gun ever in their life, right? And so if they're fortunate enough to be one of the first people to get there, I ask them to pick up a gun, right, that they do not know is loaded or unloaded, right? I will have them to then pick it up and aim it in what I have determined is the safest direction in the room, right? And then do their best to, grab it and aim it and then shoot it. Okay, cool. Thank you. And so now, once class starts, I will share with the class that I had this individual do this. Now, I will put them on the spot and ask them, you told me that you have never handled a gun, you have never taken a class, et cetera, right? Now that you look at these guidelines of safety, tell me some of the things that you did wrong, right? And we'll go through that, we'll interrogate that, right? But the bigger question becomes, if you have never done any of this, have never taken a class, and never handled a gun, et cetera, where did you learn to do this at? If I'd have asked you to get into a cockpit of an airplane and flew me to, around the corner, you wouldn't even begin to know where to start, right? Everybody with me? So where do we get these understandings of how to use a gun? Television. This is where the vast majority of people develop their opinion, their interpretation, and their knowledge of firearms from TV. And so, this becomes the bigger lesson, if we could, out of this piece, that there's a need for proper firearms information and training, because y'all was talking about rappers and whatnot. It was a young brother that was doing a video in his home. I guess it was a rap video since guns was involved. His uncle gave him a gun. The little brother was bouncing around. I guess he bouncing around. That's what they do in rap videos. Y'all gotta understand, I'm almost 60, so. But in any event, he presses the trigger. Because what do we see in Hollywood and in the videos? Put the finger on the trigger, what? Let you know you're ready to handle your business. This is what it is. No, you see it in just about every movie. They're getting a lot better with it now in a lot of movies, where you'll see a lot of fingers outside of the trigger guard, hiding and register and whatnot. But you'll still see it when it's advertised, finger on the trigger and whatnot. So he presses the trigger. The round goes through the wall, goes through into the next room, where his little cousin, I want to say, is sitting in the bed doing whatever it is that she's doing in the bed, and it kills the little sister. And so this firearms education is one thing that can come out of this understanding of that what's in your home need not be discussed, because there is, and we must not deny this, there is a culture that permeates inside of our communities that is very unhealthy with the gun, towards the gun, and everything else. They don't know how to use them. They're using them for wrong reasons. They don't know when to use them. You know what I'm saying? Not that they're not effective killers, right? We know that to be the case. But there's just a whole mess of stuff that's happening inside of our community that this piece could be a starting point for a larger conversation. Per what can we learn from this? Because it got so many hits and everybody wants to have a conversation about it. Well then, let's build another conversation around it. What do responsible gun ownership look like? You know what I'm saying? That whole kind of thing. So to answer the brother's question, I think that's one thing that could come out of it. You know what I'm saying? And then the last thing is just to remind everybody that just because you got that scholarship, if you don't know, if you fail to measure up to the brand, they will take it from you without question. Because we encourage, I'll close with this, we encourage our children that when they go into college to understand that this is different from high school. You're going to be given a syllabus, and you're going to be expected to keep up with that syllabus. The professor may or may not check in with you to let you know where you're supposed to be at on the syllabus. That's at the discretion of the professor. But you're supposed to know that syllabus, and above all, you have to protect your GPA, right? Because even if you switch careers, what is it called? Focus. What is it called? Majors, thank you. Even if you switch majors, that GPA is gonna follow you, right? Yeah. And that just becomes one of the more powerful instructions that we can give our children. So you went into biological science when you started.
Baba Nubian, you went on mute.
Yeah, hold on a second, please, y'all.
There you go. We can hear you now.
He said, hold on for a second. So, sis, I was thinking, well, I'll wait till we get back, but I want to share something and ask a question. It's like, could it be like our people see the dominant society and they could hold guns coming out the womb? Like you be seeing them little girls or little boys holding guns and stuff like that, and then we look at them and think that we have equal rights or whatever, or just we're treated equal. And I think about this, like at work, you know, we had conversations about I work with white people and stuff, and I notice they eat a lot of cheese and wine when we do different things. So me and my black co-workers, we talk about like how they talk about us from liking watermelon. And then I noticed some of my black co-workers don't like watermelon, and I'm thinking because they've been punked out of not liking watermelon, because who could not like watermelon?
Right.
I hate watermelon. It has nothing to do with white folks watching me because I love fried chicken. They just watch me eat it all day. I've always hated watermelon though, so.
Brother Anthony, it's funny.
So you one of 3 black people on the entire planet that don't eat watermelon.
That's right, brother. That's right, because you put one in front of me, it's going down.
Back in the day, but I don't feed into the stereotype because it's a fruit, and who cares what they say or think? That's just my observation on it.
Right. Especially when they eat more of it than we do, actually.
True. But my question is about the dominant society being able to show pictures of them with guns, but when we take pictures with guns, it's violent. I mean, the guns could be looked at as a tool, like a new tech. Brother Anthony was like technology, so they could take pictures with their technology, but we can't.
You know what? I'm glad you asked that, because it's always a I'm white and I say so kind of mentality, right? Going on when it comes to that whole dominant society piece. But in more recent years, there was, and I had kind of shared this article with Brother Nubian, the woman in Texas, what his name is, her stuff actually made world news. Her name was Caitlin Bennett, a white 22-year-old young lady who graduated from Texas Southern University, and she posed with arms after she walked across the stage and received her diploma, right, her bachelor's in biology. She waited till after she got that bachelor's and posed with a graduation hat and everything with an AR-10 semi-automatic rifle, right, in front of the Texas Southern building, right, like letting everybody know, like, this is where I'm graduating from, and I got my rifle with me. And so the photo was took, and it kind of went viral, very similar to this, what happened in Florida. Now, the difference was that she claimed, like Brother Nubian was saying, she was doing Second Amendment work. And she had did this to protest the school. She thought the policies was unfair when it come to carrying guns on campus. They got a policy at Texas Southern that says if you're a student, a faculty member, or you work in that community, that you can't carry a gun on campus, period, for protecting yourself. And this is in Texas of all places. But if you are a visitor, you can carry. And so she did this out of some kind of protest and to send a message. She's saying that that's what happened at Kent State, where a bunch of students got killed because they wasn't allowed to open carry or concealed carry or whatever. So again, did nobody take away her degree, or nobody take away anything from her, she probably working, at somebody's lab right now, right? So again, consequences that'll be bestowed upon us is never just. It's never just, right? Because they could have threatened her livelihood, right? They could have threatened her livelihood because they had this in writing. We cannot carry guns on this campus, but she did, right? She did in order to send a message. So I think that if the sister in Florida, did have a case, she can always cite this, right? Anybody else want to chime in on that? It's just my take on it.
Yeah, excuse me 1 second.
Well, legally, I don't have the experience to chime in on it.
But you know what? So again, and much appreciation for sharing that article with me. This young lady had been doing Second Amendment work prior to that, right? Yeah. After that, she was asked to work someplace that was like really just below her credentials. And she turned that job down, per the article, right? Yeah. And again, we have the perception of that when young black people interact with guns, it's this, black people, period. In fact, the city of Chicago was like okay, so back in 1982, Jane Byrne enacted a handgun ban in the city of Chicago, and the face of the handgun ban was gangbangers, right? The crazy part about that is that with or without a ban, quote unquote, gangbangers is going to access guns. By definition, they don't mind being criminals, right? And doing what they do, right? Killing each other, selling drugs, and doing whatever else it is that they do, right? So that becomes the image of gun ownership inside of the black community. And of course, there was a group of us that was working to overturn the handgun ban in the city of Chicago, which eventually we were successful in doing. And that was actually a black man that spearheaded that. It's known as McDonald versus the city of Chicago. Otis McDonald was his name. In fact, I dedicate my concealed carry classes to this elder brother. He's deceased now. But in any event, my point being is that when you think about guns and you think about black people, this is the image that a whole lot of black people have, right? And which is sad. Again, going back to Bruler's piece, who cares about what these people have put out as it relates to a narrative of who black gun ownership is and whatnot? Because a lot of black people honestly believe that the only people who have guns are police and criminals. And since you're not a police and since you're not a criminal, you really don't need a gun. Well, we know that there's fault in that thought process, but unfortunately, that's the perception that a lot of black people have, a lot of our relatives. And so, we talk about not eating watermelon because of whatever reason. There's a lot of people who do not interact with firearms because they fear that their family will ostracize them. There's a lady, a white woman, who tells a story that she knew her grandchildren from the first day that they were born, right? And she had a problem or something. She was robbed or something happened, and she decided to take a firearms class. Her husband was in full support of it and even paid for it. But her daughter and her daughter's husband told her that as long as there's a gun in the house, the children would never come back over there again. And in fact, and as long as she studied talking about guns, she won't see her children again. And so, and these are white people, right? And so there's a real strong stigma that's associated with firearms, and there's a real strong position that a lot of black people take about firearms, and they under the impression that you don't need no gun. That's for the military, that's for the police, and that's so that they can fight the criminals that got guns. And if you ain't the military, you ain't the police, then you ain't no criminal, you don't need no gun. And that's just the sad truth inside of our community. Because again, and I'll close with this part of thought, that the narrative that they're pushing on the news is that any and every time you hear about, 99% of the time that you hear about a firearm usage, is some black person killing another black person. You know what I'm saying? And so they're very successful in their propaganda. We know, again, what Garvey said about propaganda and how effective it is, you know?
Shay, I have another question. I'm gonna switch pace a little bit. This question I asked on our last podcast, and the title of our last podcast was, how do you propagate a racial code in the black community? So I asked this question was, in our lifetime, do you think you would see like maybe like a collective militia or a military unit operating in the interests of black people? Let's say like when black people is unjustly killed by the police or something, or just to push a code in the black community. Do we think in this lifetime we'll see something come together such as that?
If I may, I would absolutely say yes, because outside of saying yes, then we're saying something else. You know what I'm saying? And so we would expect that yes, sooner or later, we will arrive to a point where we will build a vanguard, is the word I want to use, whose sole purpose is to be present, to protect and advance the interests of the community. You know what I'm saying? Because if I say no to that, then I also understand that I'm saying that we'll never get to a point that we have anything that we ever think would be worth fighting for.
Ashe, I like that, brother. Yeah, and you know, brother, to answer your question, you know, the way I look at it is, I would say yes. And I would say that we kind of got some kind of work in that direction going on already. We already got some kind of movement towards that type of mentality already. It's slow motion, but it's motion, right? So I say that because, right, there's plenty of black empowerment type organizations who are doing a lot of community policing, and or at least trying to inspire those to police your block, and then police the community that's on that block, that's around that block, right? When we talk about community policing and us policing ourselves, I think that that's a start with the whole building a militia thing, because if you get rid of some of these, take some of these vacant lots, or some of these community centers that have been shut down because of lack of funding, or some of these old basketball courts where there ain't no rims, and really use them to teach target practice and things like that. I really think that we could, if we looked at the space that we got in the black community and try to, along with the community policing aspect, that if there was a place where we could take black children to get their weapons training by of course, the certified and the right individuals, and we teach them responsible black gun culture, I think that'll be a start at what your question is aiming at.
Shay, Brother Ant wanted to chime in also.
Oh, well, I had a question. one of the things we do here is we're solution-based podcasts. We, as a people, we should be tired of asking about the question, about what the problem is. We should be tired of that because we've talked about what the problem is since 1930. We should be tired of talking about what the problem is, so we should be talking about solutions at this point. And one of the things I want to know is, what is the best solution for getting propaganda for law-abiding citizens, black law-abiding citizens, to become conscious about owning guns and owning them in a manner that is safe and legal?
So if I may, and anybody else want to chime in, please chime in. I'm not trying to hog this conversation. But so two things. One, per the brother's initial the other question that I responded to, we also have to remember that historically we have always had in different states, different cities, different units that have advanced the interests of black people from a Swazi military position. And we've seen that with Deacons for Defense. You know what I'm saying? We've seen that with the Black Panther Party, and et cetera, many other formations. There's a book, We Will Shoot Back. There's like a really good book that outlines some of the efforts of different groups that offer resistance to those that was the biggest problem against our community at that time, right? Per this new question of going forward, what should this look like? One of the challenges within the black community is the black voice about firearms. We knew my family members living in the city of Chicago before and after 1982 with the handgun ban. We knew that there was handguns in the house, handguns in the car, handguns in the pocket, right? Because black people have always had guns regardless of what the law has said, because they understood that there was a need to protect themselves against whatever element it was. At different times there have been different elements in the north and in the south, coming out of the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. The last person that another black person was concerned about was another black person. It was the threat primarily came from white America. Today, the first person that black people have to be concerned with, again, because this is who we live around, right, are other black people. So with that, we have always had firearms, right, to protect us from whatever the element, the evil element was, if I can use that term. And so when I teach my concealed carry class, I encourage black people, now that they get this wealth of knowledge, this additional information, make sure that you intelligently discuss firearms at your dinner table, at your family gatherings when it comes up. Because to a large degree, and I can almost guarantee you, for those of us that's on this land today, if a conversation about firearms came up, the overwhelming majority of the people that's sitting there talking will probably be anti-gun. And then those of us that are pro-gun, in the same way that we don't want to be ostracized as this woman was that I was talking about earlier, then we would just be quiet at the table and we would leave them where they at. And I understand that, as a strategic approach to nope, I'm gonna just be quiet, I'm gonna have my gun and that's it. But what we have to start doing is adding to this discourse about blacks and firearms, you know what I'm saying? And we have to do it in an intelligent manner and in an honest manner. Because one of the most disturbing things that when we was doing the handgun ban some years ago, trying to get it lifted, was that white people would come from downstate Illinois and from some of these other white communities that was a part of the Chicagoland area where guns was not allowed, right? And they would be having this conversation from a position that This is an urban black problem. This is not our problem. You're punishing us for what these people are doing, type of thing. Not holding true to anything about, all of these, because Michael Flavor used to bring the children in about a busload to share their stories of gun violence and everything, right? And so we can't afford to have our conversation as black people as if gun violence inside of our communities are not real. We need to be very honest about that. And in that, we also need to be able to articulate and discuss firearms and firearms training and the purpose of firearm usage, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. So going forward, again, this does not need to be a taboo conversation. We need to seek out competent instructors, get proper training, get a proper insight on firearms use, and then stop hiding our position about this. Because as long as we hide our position about this, there will never be an intelligent conversation. When you hear people talk about firearms on these popular black radio shows and whatnot, most of them are anti-gun. And when they bring a person in to talk about it, if they're not anti-gun, they are poorly informed people about firearms. And so their conversation and their presentation about the defense of the Second Amendment or firearms, however you want to look at it, because there's a difference between the two. But black folk, when they was arming themselves, the least of their concern was the Second Amendment. You know what I'm saying? But my point being is that they bring these people in that's like, you sitting there as an informed gun person, and you like, they had to pick the worst person, but that's what they do. That's part of the narrative, right? But so that's what I offer going forward, that we need to get real serious about our own individual training, and then our own individual ability to articulate this information, and then stop biting our tongue at the table when it comes up. And we don't have to discuss it with anger or vigor and all the rest of that. Just lay it out as simple facts, with simple understanding. And I think that's the best way forward for us. Stop letting this be taboo for us as a people.
Okay, Brother Anthony want to weigh in on that.
Well, I had another question. How do we address when a family member or a friend that we're trying to get into gun training, how do we address the fact that the cost of bullets have skyrocketed since the pandemic? How do we address that to try and still get them involved in that?
Brother Abdul, you want to weigh in on that real quick, and then we'll swing around to Brother Nubian.
To answer your question, Brother Anthony, I'm going to come back to that in 1 second. I want to piggyback off what Brother Nubian just said. I'm going to add on to what he just said, and I agree with every aspect of what he said pertaining to having this discussion at the dinner table amongst your family and friends. There are military veterans such as myself that have a boots on the ground type mentality, who are willing and able to have discussions with young people out here, whether it's in our own family, whether it's going out in the community itself, or speaking to young people on the importance of not only just having arms, educating them on arms, but teaching them the importance of self-defense. I think it's time for black people collectively to start utilizing guys like myself. I've been begging black people for years. I got 9 years of military experience. I've been in combat 4 different times. I have a wealth of knowledge. We have to stop being afraid of saying, well, you were in the white man's army, so you're a coon. That's nonsense. The enemy uses their enemy's best expertise to gain an advantage. Why can't we utilize the training and the knowledge and the tools that we learned in the quote-unquote enemy's military to help our people using the proper tools that we learned to give back to our people? That's what I'm willing to do on behalf of what I've learned of what I've been through, and I know many other veterans, brothers, who are willing to do the same thing. The problem is that they're afraid of doing it because of the stigma attached to, oh, you in the military, you get PTSD, you don't know what you're talking about, you cause more harm than good in training and teaching our people. I disagree. Back to Brother Anthony's question. Everything has gone up since the recession. So if you're afraid of buying bullets because the sky prices went up, you think them prices of weapons have gone down? No, they've gone up as well. So if you're willing to purchase a weapon, if you're willing to put your money, time and effort into securing a weapon, you gotta understand, hey, you're gonna have to put in a little bit extra money to get those bullets as well. We have to stop being afraid as African people and to what they doing with this, or the prices are going up with this, or what they think to say about us. As legal gun owners, you have the right to protect and arm yourself as a human right, as opposed to just abiding by the Second Amendment. You have every right as a black man or a black woman, you have every right to guard and defend and protect yourself, whether it's with the use of arms or with the use of your hands. And what Brother Anthony and I was talking a little bit earlier, we actually have weapons training groups such as yourself, Brother Newbie. I know a brother I grew up with on the west side. He's doing not only weapons training, but self-defense training classes as well, that's teaching many women how to use weapons, educating them on the importance of weapons so that they will be more safe and secure to protect themselves when deemed necessary. We have the Watch Guard, we have New Era Chicago, we have all of these other groups out here who not only specialize in just teaching weapons, but self-defense. And then you have other people, I know a couple guys in Indiana that have survival tactics, that go out in nature and live off the land, live off the grid, because it may come a time where our people may actually have to divulge into that type of survivalist training. So that's pretty much all I have to say in regards to that. My solution is utilize veterans such as myself that know that can give an extra hand into educating and informing our people about weapons training, because we have the experience. Although me personally, I'm not allowed to legally carry a weapon, but I am an expert and trained on at least 15 different weapon systems, all based in the military. So that's my solution to that approach.
And that's good, brother. And I want to piggyback off of you about what you said, because I noticed I wasn't born in the 60s, but I studied the 60s and in the early 70s. And a lot of that was going on back then when brothers was going to the military and coming back and teaching. And they actually, a lot of those brothers went to jail for that, because a friend of mine, he's like a mentor, but he's the nephew of Geronimo Pratt. And I know when Geronimo Pratt was getting out of jail, they was going through that whole movement and everything. And, you know, I thought about him when you were saying, you know, you wanted to give your services, because, you know, a lot of them brothers did that back then.
Let me say one more thing in regards to that. Every time I get around young people, when I explain myself in the military, and I've done this based off of my own personal experience, I take the time to grab youth, particularly black youth, go off a little section at a school gym or whatever, and I actually show them, you know, different stances that you do when shooting a weapon, how to hold a weapon, how to accurately hold your weapon up, the different procedures in shooting and stuff like that. So the education factor is there. Many of our youth are interested in learning how to do it the right way. I think we have to just actually do it. You know, actually go out there and show our youth to do it. One last thing I want to say, propaganda. A couple years ago, I posted on IG a picture of me and my son holding a Nerf gun. A white woman came under my post that I was an irresponsible parent for showing that imagery of me and my son. I said, no, you're an irresponsible adult for trying to tell me as a black man how to properly raise my son on the importance of weapon safety, even if it's a Nerf gun. Who are you to tell me that I'm irresponsible? If anything, I'm showing my son the importance of utilizing self-defense with weapons.
And true. before, I also want to make a statement that I want to get whoever want to ask their opinion on. I saw, okay, when we talk about gun safety, I know we pride ourselves on the civil rights movement, and the civil rights movement is anti-violence. So, I mean, that's what they shove it down our throat. So we kind of pride ourselves off of it as a people. But I watched a movie about the civil rights movement, and I kind of studied on it. And I noticed like Martin Luther King had guns before the government maybe sent somebody at him, like Brown Rod, Rustine or something.
He had the Deacons of self-defense.
So he had guns and everything, and I mean, I just want y'all to weigh on that for a minute.
Having guns does not mean that you're violent. Owning a weapon and holding a weapon and displaying a weapon does not mean that you're violent. From my personal experience in the military, there were times I used to pray that we went out on missions that we never had to shoot anybody. Because we personally know the implications of what comes behind it. So we also have to erase the stigma that just because you have a weapon does not automatically mean that you're going to initiate some type of violence. Brother Nubian stated it earlier that if you got it on you, a person more likely to think twice about trying to take it there with you, as opposed to if you ain't got it on you, they'll perceive you as prey and think that they can oppose violence on you. You know, having a weapon can also mean, what's the word I'm looking for? Prevention. It could prevent you from committing an act of violence against somebody simply because somebody know, hey, this person is armed. This person more than likely knows the importance of weapon safety. So why would I even take a chance in wanting to provoke some type of act against that person?
I always say peace couldn't exist without the threat of violence. So, Brother Nubian, you want to weigh on that?
Yeah, now I'm gonna oppose that peace could not exist without the threat of violence, and I understand the dichotomy of everything, but we have to also understand that we can develop a reality where we're going to be peaceful and not be peaceful because of the threat of violence. So. You know what I'm saying? One of the challenges with the way that the world is structured is that there always have to be winners and losers. And we have to start teaching our children games that they can play where there are no winners and losers, right? Where like the game of keeping the ball in the air, especially for black children, right? Just keeping the ball in the air. There is no winners or losers. It's only when all of us do our absolute best that we all keep the ball in the air as long as we possibly can, and we celebrate that, right? So I just want to throw that out there as a concept for us as we work to develop our reality. Let me just back just a second about the brother's question about the ammo. Very true story. I have classes on the other side of concealed carry, one of them honing the fundamentals, where we come back and we do just those fundamentals. We try to hone those and get people to a point where they, start taking them from a position of just shooting to a position of self-defense. But the ammo was $1 a round. And so the round count was 200 rounds, which made $200. And at the time, I was charging $125 for that class. That's $325 for a 4-hour class. That just did not make sense. And I wasn't willing to try to find out who was going to be willing to do that. Ammo costs is going down now. You can get, so prior to COVID, you can get 50 rounds of 9mm full metal jacket target practice ammo, right? For about $11.99 a box, right? Sometimes you could catch it as low as $9.99 a box, but on average, $11.99 a box. At the height of COVID, it went up to $50 a box for those same 50 rounds. So from $11.99 all the way up to $50 a box. So from something like 23 cent a round or whatever it was, 19, 18 cent a round, all the way up to $1 a round, right? So it did become very cost prohibitive. But that becomes the cost of training. You know what I'm saying? I took a class. It was 1,000 round class, 2 or 3 day class, 1,000 round handgun, and the class costed $600. And the ammo at that price cost $1,000. But because I wanted that class and because I wanted to study under that instructor, that was the cost of training. Now, when people complain about, because on average, if you're going to the range, you probably got them in the booth shooting, you probably gotta shoot, if you're shooting intentionally, right? Versus just sending rounds down range, you're probably going to shoot 50, maybe 100 rounds, right? And that's a decent day at the range, you know, just a quick run trip to the range or whatever. But you don't never hear people complaining about the price of cigarettes, man. I got smokers in my family. Now, again, being born in the 60s, we used to be able to go to the store and get cigarettes from my mother with a note, right? She would give us $1 and we would still have money for Snickers and another candy box, so like 2 candy bars. And so it went from that all the way up to like 12, 13, 14, whatever the heck it is now, a pack of squares. That's incomprehensible to me. I'm like, if I was a smoker, I probably would have been forced to quit, but nope. These brothers and sisters are still spending those dollars for that. They still spending money for any and everything else they want to spend money for. And so they don't spend money on self-defense. That's their problem. And so it's not the price of it that's as harmful to them as much as it is they're not having enough value to understand the need for self-defense and proper training. So let me just deal with this question of violence. How was that question originally? Oh, okay, for the nonviolent piece. So Dr. King also even applied for a concealed carry permit, you know, and it was denied. And so a lot of people, again, talk about Dr. King, and they don't ever talk about that. And again, as you were saying, brother, prior to them having Dr. King to compromise his position, buying into that racist Gandhi's position, as we know that Gandhi was a racist, right? And for those that don't know, Mahatma Gandhi was never concerned about racial equality as long as those that was in power that did not treat those Indians as the same way that they treated the black people of that country, the Kafirs, or you know, or as we would say in the States, the niggers. And so Gandhi was cool, just don't treat us like niggers and we're gonna be okay. And so that's the piece that we missed about Gandhi. And this was even after he took his holy trip. If you look at his writings, he still maintained that position, because that's what a lot of people try to pose. He went on a holy trip and he changed. That's a lie. Gandhi was a straight racist, and he was only about his people and not about black people. Because we know they call the black people there in India the Dalit, the untouchables, right? And so Gandhi was like, we are not them, do not treat us like that, and everything will be cool. So that was Gandhi's piece. But now on this piece of violence, now I can't remember the guy's name. It's a white guy that said it, one of the firearms instructors. He said that if you do not have the ability to inflict violence on someone, you're not non-violent at all. What you really are is harmless. And that you will take the position of saying that you're non-violent, because the truth of the matter is you couldn't lay violence down if you wanted to, right? And so I think that it aids us in understanding that we need to be in a position to inflict violence on people if it deemed necessary, right? And so a lot of times we look at the word violence, because what did Malcolm say? Malcolm said, we're not violent, we're intelligent, right? And so we look at that and we say, no, we're not dealing with violence. But when you look at what violence is per definition. As I'm looking at it now, it says behavior includes physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something, right? And that's what we need to be able to inflict on people. When they inflict that on us, we need to be able to, if you will, return the favor. Another guy puts it this way, whichever way floats your boat, right? But another guy puts it in a way of saying that we will use force to stop violence, right? So it's not violence as you try to move away from what that word actually means. We're using force, but that force is coming in a very violent manner. You know what I'm saying? And so we need not be afraid of violence. We need to embrace the ideal of being able to have our ability to have a behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill something or someone. Because nonviolence will only get you killed. You're talking about what will get you killed. Nonviolence will get you killed because violent people is going to continue being violent with you, whoever they are, whether they from inside of the family, inside of the community, or outside of the community. You know what I'm saying? Sure. And we need to be able to when it's kind of like any fighter would know that when somebody move on you, you do not have time to ask the question, what's going on? You need to be able to instantly start returning that violence to shift that fight in your favor. You know what I'm saying?
I agree, brother.
And every time you're trying to figure out why me, what did I do? This must be a mistaken identity. They study putting knots on your head or whatever, you know. So, but we just need to kind of like get a healthy understanding of what violence is and understand that anybody that move to hurt us, we have to position ourselves to be able to hurt them. Because if we're not in the position to hurt them back, we're not non-violent, we're just harmless.
And I agree, brother. I agree 100%. And that's why I made that statement. If you, without the threat of violence, you can't have peace. And I made that statement as our position as being in a system of racism, white supremacy, of how we're treated, because we don't offer a threat of violence against them, so we don't have peace. So until we can retaliate in some form of fashion, I think we won't be able to get peace.
Power checks power.
Yes.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm clear on what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. Let me chime in on this really quickly. Talk your talk, Brother Nubian. I appreciate that. I want to say something about Garvey though, and just having this race first mindset. Since we talking about solution.
Are you there, sis?
Sis, you're muted.
Your microphone went mute.
I'm sorry, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, go.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Since we talking about solutions at this point of the show, and this is solution-based media for radio, I want to get to some Garveyism really quick, and that is, Garvey has said, in quote, that propaganda has done more to harm the minds of Black people than open warfare itself. So I would say, I'm saying that to say, I agree with Brother Abdullah about destigmatizing this whole Black gun ownership thing and this whole violence piece, because, we know what Garvey would do. You know what I'm saying? It's just put a race first mindset on everything that they try to throw at us. We know that they fetishize Black people anyway. Let's just get that out the way. We are very much fetishized in the media. Look at all of our historical leaders from the Black Panther Party, how they was all up on them everywhere they went, they was following them because they was black people with guns, right? You know what I'm saying? But we forget that they was, for self-defense. The Black Panther Party for self-defense, right? And so they the main thing they cared about is that they was black people with guns and leather on, you know what I'm saying? So they always fetishize after us. The other thing is when you look at pictures of Malcolm, the infamous picture of Malcolm with the rifle standing next to the window there trying to protect his family. You understand? That image always gonna be etched into the memory of our brain that, by any means necessary, right? We had Sister Stagecoach Mary, in the 1800s, standing with her rifle. She was the first black mail carrier in the South. When the post office first opened up, she was the first person hired to deliver mail, and it was dangerous for a woman at that time. And so she always carried her rifle. Sister Stagecoach Mary, may she rest in peace. And wrapping this up, Sister Ida B. Wells, you know what I mean? She always said that, and I quote, "A Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black home." Right? And so we've always had guns, but I don't think we should shy away from taking pictures of it, of us in that way. I think we should kind of embrace that as long as we know the laws in our state, the laws in our county, some federal, the laws and restrictions, and we work around that, we should be fine. I don't think that, we should say, don't take pictures. I think we should normalize it, because no way are they going to respect black people until we take the respect. You know what I'm saying? And so I would say one solution could be, the fact that we don't have any gun ranges in the black community is a problem. I look at, I listened to what Brother Nubian said, about having that discussion around the dinner table. I think that we should start gifting each other that type of thing. Like my son, for example, that, this discussion has made me want to gift him the opportunity to participate in the self-defense classes with Brother Nubian. I think we should seek out purposely brothers like Brother Nubian, who's trained, who's given these classes, and take our whole families to the class, right? So if you want to gift something to the black youth, it should be something that's life-saving, and this could be life-saving. So my thing is, Garvey would say probably that we need to own the and manufacture the guns and the rounds. So I just think that, as we get back around to Garveyism and having a race-first mindset, that the ideal would be that we would be manufacturing our own weapons and things of that nature. But until we get there, though, that discussion need to be had at the dinner table, and then actions followed up behind it. I think that we should be registering our people for the class, and for a black conceal and carry class, that is. So, I conclude with that. I land my plane. Thank you for listening.
You land your plane.
On that note, we're gonna end our show. It's that time. We want to thank y'all for listening to Race1st Radio with the Garveyites. This is solution-based black media. And Brother Anthony, you want to share with them with our YouTube channel information?
Yes, please like, share, and subscribe. Our YouTube channel is UNIA Division 401 TV. And again, that is UNIA Division 401 TV.
We're going to close out with Race1st.
Race first, 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 race first. I'm screaming race first, brothers form a coalition. Protectors and providers, earn your belt in position. And tell my sisters out there, you're not my competition. Our enemy, one is divided as opposition. I'm taking care of home first. The melanin the creator blessed us with has value in its own worth. The most beautiful resources are black women. So when you disrespect them, yes, I get offended. We need to give our children knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and reparations for slavery, we are demanding. Look to the future, begin a positive outcome. Forget being niggas, we need to raise more Malcolms. Encourage our women that the beauty is natural. The bond between the brother and sister is compatible. I young race first, cause I love being black with the original man, and that's an actual fact. Race first, 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 race first. In the spirit of Marcus Garvey, one God, one aim, and one destiny. We're trying to live heavily. Power to the people that's meant for us especially. Support black businesses, utilize your specialty. I love my brothers and sisters, there's no confusion. You want equality on the ship is revolution. Look at our flag, let me explain what it means. In the essence of God, which is the supreme being. The red is for the blood of which our ancestors shed, for us to be free and also moving ahead. The black is for the skin we possess as melanin. As God's chosen people, just look at the evidence. The green is for the land in which our people reside, all over the planet, which includes our Kelbuline. I young race first, and there is no looking back, because I love my people, and that's an actual fact. Race first, 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 race first. One God, one aim, one destiny, one love. 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 Race first, 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 race first.